Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today on this happy Friday morning, and we are so excited to chat to you about facing the gentle giants of Africa, the mountain gorilla. With us today, I have Lee and Minette. Please say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Amazing. Today, obviously, we're going to be chatting to you about gorilla trekking, and this is a really fascinating topic. Our consultant Minette has actually been on a gorilla trek before. She's lived in Uganda, she's been a guide, so she's very knowledgeable. And of course, we have Lee joining us, who is just as knowledgeable and is here to answer any of the questions you have. Just a reminder that we have a Q&A chat box where you can ask your questions and we'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Without further ado, let's get cracking, ladies. How are you guys feeling?
Good, excited.
I'm feeling excited. Just a heads up, I'm going to try not to talk too much because when I get excited, I just like, and stop.
Minette is very chatty, everybody. She loves to talk, but don't worry, we will hopefully not keep you for too long.
We'll just keep you on track, Minette.
Yeah.
I need that.
Awesome. So I guess the first question, Minette, is what do you love so much about gorilla trekking, and why should somebody experience that?
You know, that is a really good question. And the day when I started my trek, I don't think it actually quite hit me yet, to be honest. The walk itself is incredible. It's not just the gorillas. I mean, you're walking in a rainforest. But when you see that first gorilla, I just got goosebumps. The overwhelming emotion you feel that, oh my gosh, I'm in the presence of these incredible, magnificent animals. And it's just like the emotion washes over you because you feel so blessed that you're in their presence. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and they are an endangered species. And while you have the opportunity and you get the chance in Africa, do it. Don't even hesitate. Yes, it's pricey, but if you can do it, do it. I mean, you know, it's definitely worth it. It's just the emotions is just incredible being in presence with these guys. It's phenomenal.
It's amazing. And what would you say would be your most memorable encounter when you were on a gorilla trek? Like, what sticks out for you? What really sets it in motion for you to be like, okay, cool, this is what I went through, this is what I experienced, and yeah.
So when I was on the hike, I was sitting on, I mean, depending on the family you go and visit, the hike and the terrain that you walk can change. And it can be quite challenging, especially when it's been raining and the floor of the forest is wet. But when you finally see that family, so for me, I was on quite a steep slope, so I kind of like had to hang on a tree or a branch just to keep my footing. But I was a meter from a silverback, and it was just the size of those fingernails. So it's like little pork sausages, the hands, it was. And so it was just being there with him. And then he turned around and looked at me, and I was like, you know, but it was like, oh, hi. Like I'm part of like one of his family, and I've just come to say hi. That was incredible that he didn't find me as a threat, and he just looked at me and then carried on eating his, you know.
When you described that, did you feel scared at any point, or was it just more?
No, not at all. The adrenaline, my heart was pumping so fast because you only get given an hour. Once you reach the family, you need to put your masks on, the gorilla family, and you sit there for an hour. You've got to be quiet, no loud noises, no sudden movements. And as long as you follow the guide's instructions, you're going to be absolutely okay. You're with the trackers and the rangers that follow these gorillas every single day. And these guys are quite familiar with the mannerisms of the gorillas and how they work. And if they find, you know, all right, I need to alert, we need to move away, then just based on one of the gorillas' mannerisms, then they would move the group to a safer place. But it's never really brought up. It's never really been an issue. Never problems have happened. As long as you listen to your guide and follow everything that he says and does.
That's the same with any safari, really.
No, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a wild animal, and you do need to respect and be quiet. Like you can imagine, any sudden movement or a loud noise is not natural for them, so they're going to be alert, and you don't want to really do that per se. I mean, I've had stories. One of my travelers, like 20 odd years ago, she went gorilla trekking, and she emailed me that night, and she's like, "You're not going to believe what happened. I was just sitting viewing, this family of gorillas, and the mum came past and plopped the baby in my lap." Yeah, she had to sort of babysit the baby while mum went off to feed. I was like, oh my God.
Maybe mom had 2 babies and she's like, I need to look after one. I need a break.
No, absolutely. But, you never know what you're going to get. You never know if you're going to get a little boisterous teenager that just like pummels his fists on his chest. Just enjoy the moment. And that hour you get with them goes by so fast. Like, you need to also remember to stop and just take in and enjoy the moment. Like, I had a video camera here, I had my phone here, it was stills, and this was me. That half my footage is awful, because I was like so overwhelmed being in these presents that I was just like trying to take it all in at once with a camera, film, and then still trying to look. Just don't forget to enjoy the moment, because it goes by so quickly.
Definitely. I think that's what any safari experience. Like, sometimes you have to just put the camera down and just sit back and realize where you are. That's
100%. Get your one shot and put the camera down.
Yeah. You only need one.
Yeah,
much like if you got someone.
You don't want to be having your safari through the lens of a camera the whole time. You want to actually enjoy it and see it as well.
Definitely. I guess probably the first question I actually should have asked is, what exactly is gorilla trekking?
What is gorilla trekking?
For those who don't know.
Why do they call it trekking?
And
All right. So gorilla trekking is an activity. This is an excursion that gives you an opportunity to see one of the most incredible beasts, if I could say per se, incredible animals in our world that are endangered, and often the most incredible destinations have rather interesting journeys. Some of the best destinations include a challenging journey. So the gorilla trekking can be challenging. You are hiking in a rainforest. A lot of it is quite easy to walk, but then, you're going to get to points where you need to go up a steep, like ravine sort of thing, and then you just got to climb up. So it's a lot of up and down. You're literally climbing up a volcano in search, a high mountain, in search of gorillas. So it's the terrain, and we don't know where the families are until the moment that you track, because we don't know where they've rested the night before. So that's up to the trackers. Your track can take anything from 20 minutes up to 4, 5, 6 hours, depending where the family is. My track, we tracked for about 2 hours. So a lot of it was on a normal path, and then we'd have to break off into the bush terrain. The head guides will have pangas just to cut the bush so that it's easy for you to walk through. And then once you get to the family, you get to have 1 hour with them. And then after that, they will find the closest path to exit the park that you are tracking in. And quite often it's not nearly as long as the track coming in. Quite often it's just a little quick path, 30 minutes up, and you're at a lodge in the middle of Windy. And then, hey ho, your vehicle's there to pick you up. So it's not necessarily that you're going to walk back with 2 or 6 hours. It all depends where the family is and where you're going to be trekking. But it is an incredible activity. It is also offered in Rwanda. A little bit more pricier there, but it's a different country, different government, different rules, so their prices are slightly different as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Minette. And obviously, like, understanding what gorilla trekking is great, but what do you need to know before you decide to take on gorilla trekking? Like, what's involved in booking something like that? Are there permits, etc.? So yeah.
Right. So a couple of things. In order for you to go gorilla trekking, we need to buy a gorilla permit. And the only way to do this is to pay it in full. We have suppliers and operators on the ground in Uganda that will then either travel by hand to the Uganda Wildlife Authority office, or there are only certain specialized companies in Uganda that are allowed to sell permits. So a lot of the operators we use have their set bases in Uganda already, who purchase the permits for you. In order to purchase a permit, we do need your full name and passport number as per the passport you're traveling on. So your permits are booked according to this passport information. So if you get down the day and your passport information doesn't match what's on your gorilla trekking permit, they won't let you track. So it's vitally important that you give us the correct information for this. Quite often when people are booking a tour, they're like, oh, my passport expires in a couple of months, I'm getting a new one before the tour. That's absolutely fine. Once you do have your new updated passport info, please just do send it across. So that's the major thing in terms of just securing your gorilla permit. For the trek itself, it's quite important to realize that an element of fitness is required. You don't need to be no Olympian or a person that goes to gym every day. I don't go to gym every day. Stand up, you will see that. But just, general health, just for stamina more than anything else. So if you can just practice by walking around a couple of blocks every day after work, and then each day just walk another block and another block and see, right, how quicker can I do these blocks? And then and that in itself will be enough to prepare you for your gorilla trekking. In terms of gear and what to wear, so good, comfy, grippy shoes. A lot of people will say, the good ankle hiking boots. So if you have wonky ankles, we used to call them wankles. You have a tendency where your feet can swerve and slip. Then absolutely 100% get something that will support your ankles, because some of the hikes can be challenging, especially if the forest floor is wet. You are trekking in a rainforest, so it can rain at any given time, whether it's dry season or rain season. The forest has its own weather pattern, so if it's going to rain, you need to be prepared for it. So when you are going on a trek, comfortable shoes. So I just wore off-road trail trainers, and that was absolutely fine for me. However, if you want something a bit more grippy, by all means, especially if you're doing a longer tour through Africa, if you're going to be hiking Mount Kilimanjaro or Fishery Canyon, use those same boots. It's absolutely fine. Another thing that's really handy to have is gardening gloves. I know it sounds quite random, but when you're walking and you lose your balance, it's instinct just to put your hand out and grab a branch just to steady yourself. Some of these branches might have thorns on, or bugs or nettles. So, that's where it comes handy, is just to grip yourself. You don't hurt, and you're really just protecting your hands. So you don't need anything thick or bulky, nice and thin. You're not going to get these in Uganda. You'll get welding gloves, big bulky things. If you forget to pack them in, honestly, I didn't even trek with gloves, but it is handy for those who have quite sensitive hands. So that's pretty epic to have. Another really cool tip is just good old-fashioned energy sweeties. So your little glucose sweets that you carry, carry those with you, because you're trekking, you're in a rainforest, it's humid. Ladies, you'll be perspiring. Men, you'll be sweating. And you kind of need to replenish yourselves, your liquids, as well as natural salts in your body. Because when you're sweating, you're releasing all these salts and you're not replacing it. So sometimes not even water is enough. So definitely water, but glucose sweet seriously goes a long way. And then a light rain jacket, because it can rain at any time and you'd like to protect your camera gear. So that will be super helpful. Lastly, you do have the option to take a porter. I do recommend this for various reasons. You may be the fittest person in the world going, no, I can do this myself. I can do it with my backpack. Yeah, that's great. But these guys only get the opportunity to be a porter, I think once a month or once every 40 days. They don't get a salary. So the only income they have is what you pay them to carry your bag for you. But they're also there to help you. I mean, I couldn't have done it without my porter because he pushed my butt up a really high ravine thing. There was no ways I was going to get up there without him. I was like, you've got to help me here, buddy. So, and it was.
You made him work for his money then.
Made him work for his money.
Yeah, shame, poor guy. But I also had them laughing a lot, which wasn't very good.
I think anybody who has an encounter with you will laugh a lot.
So, Minette, now you're talking about the porters and stuff. Are they available at the lodges? Do they wait for?
Yeah, so what they'll do is not necessarily at the lodges. You'll find them at the Gorilla Trek start point. So they're all there in the morning. So when you leave your lodge or your camp where you're staying, it's about a 2-hour drive, depending. So where I was based in Lake Bunyoni. So a lot of overland trucks will be departing for their Gorilla Trek from there. It's a 2-hour drive to the Gorilla Trek start point. So once you get to the Gorilla Trek start point, you have a briefing about your Gorilla Trek. It's also where you're going to meet your rangers, your guides, and the porters. So the porters are there. You can choose one, and they'll just carry your bag. So you don't need to get one at the camp. You get one at the start of the trekking point. With that said, you just need to make sure you bring enough cash with you for the tipping. And this is often a little bit of a confusing topic because you never know exactly how many rangers and guides and trekkers and you're going to have on your trek. But I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 or 6 you need to budget for. So you have your head ranger, you have the security police per se, you have trackers, and you've got guides. So each one have various levels for tipping, and by all means, we are happy to send this information through to you by mail, because to talk about it can be quite overwhelming. But just for example, for the tracker, so the guides, the rangers all have monthly salaries, just so that you know, but it is customary to tip. For the porter, he doesn't. So he gets about 80,000 shillings. This is equivalent to about $25 for the day. It's really not too much when you think what they're doing. It's the only day you can work, over the next month sort of thing. And so, it's definitely worth, because not only are you supporting him and a family, putting bread and butter on their table, but it's also just making your trek that much more enjoyable.
So, also, I was just thinking of something because, like permits, they only issue a certain number a day because only a certain number of people go in. So how does that work with extra people? Like, do the porters and stuff, because obviously they're not buying permits, do they get like certain access because they're local to the area?
No. So what happens is they don't have to pay naturally, but they're only there to help you on the walk. So when
they stop.
Yes.
Point.
So when the trackers have found the gorilla family, you kind of stop, you put your mask on. So my tracker held my bag for me, and I just went to the family with my camera, and they stayed back. So it was only the trackers, the head guide, and us as 8 people that were the gorillas. All the porters and the others stayed at the back.
And what's the difference between a tracker and a guide?
So your guide is usually a Uganda Wildlife Authority ranger guide. They've studied, they have qualifications. They also give you information on the fauna and flora of the area, so they're guiding you through the process. The trackers are the guys that pretty much stay with the gorillas 24/7 per se, keeping an eye on them and just following them from a distance. And I stand under correction, but sometimes these will be the same trekkers that were with them when they did their habituation. So this would mean that a total wild gorilla that is not used to humans or having any form of interaction with humans. They go through a habituation process so that they can be used to, humans per se, and then only are they then allowed or introduced as a family for gorilla trekking per se, because then they're used to humans and they won't necessarily run away. With the habituation, it's a much longer, harder, and a lot more expensive because you're on the go constantly. It's not like you see your family and you can sit and just enjoy and watch them for an hour. These guys are not familiar with humans, and so they see you, they're scared, and they just keep moving. So it's constant. It's all the way.
Is there a higher risk with maybe a habituation from the fact that they're not so used to people, or you say that they just move away?
I'm not sure. It's a really good question. We'd have to probably touch base with the professionals, in Uganda, but it is a complete different experience and something that you need to be more open-minded about. I personally haven't done the habituation. I'm also not familiar with any stories of any situations that have happened. I just know that you won't get to enjoy peacefully sitting with a family of gorillas with a habituation.
No, that's how I understand it, that they just move.
Yeah. They're just on the move the whole time. They're not used to you, so they're just going to keep moving and get away from you because you're unfamiliar.
But you kind of have, like a scientist or wildlife expert because they're studying them or something like that?
Well, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, well, I guess it also depends on who you're going to be trekking with, but I'm not 100% sure of that, so I don't really want to quite answer on that. I'll double check for sure. But you do have the rangers that are working with these guys 24/7 that are staying with them, and you do have guides that move with you. It could just be that the guys that are researching them, they may be there on the day or they may not be there on the day. And if they are, they might join you, depending how many people are in the group. And my common sense would tell me that they take less people on a habituation than they would on a standard gorilla trek.
Thank you, Matt.
That's something I need to double check, actually. It's a good question.
No, I think you're right. I think there's 4 permits a day or something, as opposed to like you could get like 8 or double the amount of a normal trip.
Yeah, because the standard gorilla, you can have 8 people per family, but there's also a lot of families out there. I mean, they are breeding a lot. So when I was there, the family that I was tracking is a new one. So they're part of one of the bigger family groups, and Silverback, started his own family with another female, and then when the baby was born, they decided to break off and start their own little family. So this is how there are so many families, because when it gets too big, or
it's like I'm moving out of home, kind of.
Yeah, like bye, we'll see you later. I'm starting my own thing. Yeah, it's sort of like that. So
family. It's like that one series on TLC where they like swap families.
Oh, the wife.
Yes, that one. Yes, that's right. Oh my gosh, I used to love that program.
It's so interesting that happens in nature, and
it's dynamic
with humans.
Exactly.
Well, I was reading that gorillas have like something like 98% DNA or similar to people. Like they are like the closest.
Yes.
And for this reason, we can pass on our diseases and sicknesses to them very easily. So it's so important to look after your health. Make sure you don't go do anything funny before your gorilla trek. And please try not get the flu. If you have a cough or a sneeze, they're not going to let you trek.
You were saying even hay fever can be an issue.
Pardon?
Weren't you saying like even hay fever, or somebody told me even hay fever can be an issue? I'm like,
well, hay fever would more be an allergy. I don't think it's a virus or a bacteria, but yeah, like I guess if they suffer from hay no, I don't think hay fever. Maybe I might have said that one day just with one of my verbal diarrhea sessions. But no, it's mostly that we can transfer sicknesses and diseases to them quite easily, and they can catch it. And the same with the chimps. So it's important. That's why we have to wear masks when you're in the presence of the gorillas. But even if you have a flu, they won't let you track. So I had a lady on my tour who, I think she just got a case of the African belly, 24-hour bug sort of thing, and it just happened on the day she had to track. And
you can't though if you're that sick because you'd be dehydrated. And
well, it would have been a horrible and an awful experience, but in this case, she actually hired, and this is possible. You can do this. Not a lot of people know it, but you can actually be carried, so you don't have to walk. So they put you in a chair, sort of thing, and you are carried by 4 men, sort of pretty much up the mountain.
Oh, wow. Did she do
This
that?
needs to be prearranged. So even people who are paralyzed. There are opportunities. It doesn't mean you can't walk, that you can't hike. It is possible. Pre-permission needs to be gotten. It is expensive, but if you can and you have the money and the budget, freaking do it. Why not? Everybody can.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, because you always think to yourself, "Oh, I can't go on a safari." Like, if you are, paralyzed, or if you've got something.
There are options.
Yeah.
Not a lot in East Africa. But in Southern Africa, oh my gosh, there are companies that specialize safaris for anyone who's enabled on any level. I've actually operated one. I ran a trip where the truck was specially built to take wheelchairs. It's got a little put it in, the wheelchair goes in, and there were like little special locks where you can lock your wheelchair in, and it's super safe, and off we went. It was amazing, and it's just so beautiful being able to, offer safaris for people who thought they never could either. We're going off another topic there. We got to go back to But yeah, like there's no reason why nobody can't come. We might be a little bit more behind in terms of tools and accessibility. Like the UK and Europe is phenomenal for wheelchair users. Like they can do skiing, scuba diving, the whole patootie. We're getting there. We're definitely getting there. Lodges are definitely wheelchair accessible. A lot of them are, not all, but anything's possible. There's always a way.
I heard you mention chimps. Could you explain what the difference is between gorilla trekking and chimp trekking? Because I assume you can't do them both on the same day.
No, I think. Sorry. Crikey, I'm not going to lie, Mishka. I think if I had to do the gorilla and the chimp trekking in one day, I don't think I'd ever be able to walk again. Only because I was unfit. I wasn't fit enough, my the stamina part. So there is quite a difference. The terrain that you're trekking on, the areas that you're trekking on are quite different. The forest floor for the chimp trekking could be similar. So the area that I did my chimp trekking was in the Greater Murchison National Park area in the Budongo Eco Forest Reserve. Incredible, very humid. I found it more humid than the gorilla trekking. Maybe it was just the day and the season. Anything like it can change. But the terrain, the floor that you were walking on was very much like this. Not climbing per se, but it was a really uneven terrain, and you're crossing the river back and forth. So what's interesting to note with the chimps is that these guys are constantly on the move.
Yeah.
So you have to, what made it hard for me is that you're hiking really fast, really, really fast, to try and be in front of the chimps the whole time. So as they're coming, you're in front of them to get your photo while they're feeding. So the guides and the trackers are just trying to get you ahead of the chimps the whole time. And they know where the chimps are. They've just got to go by sound, going right there, right, we've got to head this way. Come, we've got to go. And then it's like, oh, I'm coming. But then once you do see the family, it is phenomenal. You have 5-10 minutes while they're just, foresting on berries and things before they move on to the next tree. Incredible. I literally felt like I was with my cousins in terms of they are so human-like in terms of looks and mannerisms. Not that gorillas aren't, but I found it a lot more with the chimps. They're odd. They screech a lot. They're brilliant and funny. They're really good.
What other wildlife can you expect to see in Uganda apart from chimps and gorillas? Like what else is
Like what
unique
other
about it?
safari experiences and what's unique about it? Yeah.
All right, so also this is area dependent. So like in Murchison, you have an incredibly high chance of seeing elephants, crocodile, and hippopotamus. Anything you see over above that is extra special on the bonus. Bird life is pretty phenomenal in Murchison, especially when you do the boat cruise on the Nile River to see the falls. It's so special. It's so beautiful. And yeah, it just depends on the luck of the day what you've seen. So I've seen saddleboard walks, a whole variety of birds, elephant just coming along, drinking all of the bags.
Oh, amazing.
On your cruise boat. It's pretty special. You also get to see lots of different types of monkeys. You've got red tails, you have vervets, you have black monkeys, the golden monkey, and it's all really the luck on the day of what you get to see. Over and above that, like if you went to Queen Elizabeth National Park, the Shasha sector in the south is really well known for the tree climbing lions. And it's something that's pretty cool because it's the lions in this area just prefer to hang out in trees. You don't see it as often like in Etosha or the Akavinga Delta or South Luangwa or the Mara where they're in trees. I mean, the odd time you do, but in Ishasha, most of the time they're in the trees, and it's pretty epic to see. So you can do a game drive, an optional morning game drive. Some tours include one. Something that's really cool and special to see in Uganda that you won't necessarily see anywhere else is a shoebull stalk.
Oh.
They are so cool when they breathe, the little beaks get like
The sound that they make.
Yeah, it is so cute. So I've had the pleasure of meeting Sushi, the famous shoebull stalk in Uganda. He's at UWEC. It's a Uganda Wildlife Education Center. And you can do a behind the scenes tour where you can go and meet Sushi. The stalk, and it's incredible because he interacts with you. So the guide will say, when you greet him, just shake your head, go down. So you go and you shake your head, and then here comes Sushi with his little head and also like doing a little shake, greeting you. It's a pretty cool experience.
So is that how the shoebulls communicate with each other? Do they do that head shake?
I think that's how they greet and talk, and yeah, it's a good thing. They also like to be, something that I remember with the shoebull stalk is that they always like to be on a higher spot, so they could quite happily jump and stand on your shoulder like this tame guy, and that could be quite hurtful. They could
because they're quite big.
Those claws, man, claws. So, look, this doesn't happen like so much that you have animal interactions, but this is you pay for it at the Wildlife Education Center. You go on behind the scenes, and they might have, animals who are poached for argument's sake, and there's babies, of the mum that was poached. Then it goes to the education center, to the rehab. They rehabilitate them and eventually will then release them back in the wild. So they do a lot of incredible work with conservation, especially giraffes up in Murchison. On that note, interesting fact, there's only one place in Uganda that you're going to find zebras.
Okay.
It's in Lake Kamburu.
Okay.
Interesting. You won't find them in Queen Elizabeth or in Murchison.
Do you have a reason for that? Like,
I don't know. Sorry, if I told you I'd be lying.
She knows the fact. She doesn't know the reason.
Yeah, just the fact.
It's just a fact. It's an interesting fact. I don't know about Kidepra. I haven't been there, but
when you're talking about the conservation,
it's just the only place you'll see zebras in Uganda is Lake Kamburu.
That's interesting for people that haven't seen, but I think once you've been through the rest of East Africa, you're going to have seen quite a few.
Oh, no, you'll be fine. You'll be seeing a fair amount.
But Minette, you're talking about the conservation and
yes.
and they rescue the babies and stuff. It brought back images, and I think we see it sometimes. We obviously share videos, but the Sheldrick Trust in Kenya. You know, and I think like if people get the opportunity and they're in East Africa, that's also something that they should see.
100%. I think if I had to go to Sheldrick, I won't leave. I have a bit of a bleeding heart when it comes to that, and I'll be just like in there in the thick of it, sleeping with the baby rhinos or elephants or whatever it is. You know, give them all the love and the care that they need because they've just been through trauma. I would, but I'd be permanently broke if I did that. So. But yeah, it's incredible what they do. Speaking of the Sheldrick Trust, there's, and I'm glad you brought it up, Lee, because I'm going to use this opportunity to talk a little bit about them. That, you know, you need to pre-book your activity to go there. First of all, the Elephant Orphanage, and when you do that, you do it direct through the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. Don't do it on, no offense to the trip advisors or, you know, through some safari companies offering it. No, it's a scam. It's not allowed. You are only allowed to book it in one place, and that's direct with the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. I mean, I know on TripAdvisor you can, but it's not valid. You're going to get them, they're going to turn you away. And it's very important to pre-book because visiting ours to see the Ellies are only at a certain time of day. It's like a 2-hour slot, and they only allow a certain amount of people. So it's vitally important to pre-book the activity to visit the elephant orphanage in Nairobi.
It looks really
to a third party. You will never be allowed entry. It doesn't matter what the third party will say to you. You can only do it direct.
It's a good tip.
Scammed.
Yeah.
Too many people being scammed. Yeah.
Just going back on, you know, conservation and just getting back to the community. You've mentioned to us before about angel wings, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah, angel wings. So, look, in Uganda, there are hundreds of organizations, and not just Uganda, but in East Africa and Africa in general. Now, what grabbed my heart with this little organization, Angel Wings, is that it was started by orphans, Uganda orphans, run and managed by.
Lovely.
So these are people who have the deep desire to want to help and just give the young kid a better life. So a lot of these kids in this little orphanage, it's in Lake Bunyoni. A lot of the tours that you'll go on in Uganda, you have 2 or 3 full days in Lake Bunyoni. And the reason you have these full days is so that there's flexibility on your gorilla permit. So if there isn't a permit available on this day, at least there's the spare day to get a permit. So that's why there's that flexibility. So then you'll find you'll have a whole free day in the area. And one of the activities you can do in your free time is to visit the Angel Wings like orphanage. So some of these kids have been there for a really long time. Some haven't been there for a long time. But the kids that are there are usually from families where there's only one mum and dad isn't around, or vice versa, or parents drowned on Lake Bunyoni fishing. That's the biggest reason why kids are orphaned, are parents drowning. So my dream would see somebody to come in and do swimming and water sensitizing for the communities in the area and actually teach them water-wise, just to prevent all these deaths. It's incredible. The Nile River is also equally responsible. People don't know how to swim, but they'll go out and fish. So these kids, or, you know, lost their parents and grandmom or grandpa has to raise them, but grandma and grandpa live in a village hours away, deep in the hills. So then these kids come to Angel Wings, and there's no international management involved, if I can put it that way. They do rely 100% on donations, but they don't sit idly and beg. They actually go out and make it work, and they send you feedback with how things are going. And so I donated money, and over a year, once a month, I would get a WhatsApp going, this is the update, this is what's done, this is where your money's gone, this is what we've done this year, blah, blah, blah. And they just need money to pay, for food for the kids and some blankets, bedding, stuff like that, and the teachers' salaries. And it's all Ugandan teachers and completely Ugandan owned and run. And it's just incredible. These kids are just happy. And in school holidays, they will go home to grandma and grandpa or to the mum if they have one. And if they don't, they stay behind like a family and just have the best time ever. And I'm very proud of the team there because recently they saved enough money to buy their own land and just build a bigger classrooms and houses for them where they can stay, like little dorms. And girls have little dorms. And there was this one girl, like, I don't know why, but my heart just went up 100% to her. And she didn't have a blanket, she didn't have anything, she had a really, really thin mattress. And I was like, she's the only one in the whole orphanage that didn't have a blanket. So I got her one. I gave money to buy her one. And and these kids are just happy. They're just grateful to have an education. Unfortunately, in Uganda, well, I guess it's from the old days, but not every child in the family will get to go to school. Usually it's just the firstborn that get to have an education and the rest will work in the fields. But I think that's also like, they're trying to change that and get more, kids to go to school and all that. But
education.
The most incredibly beautiful, friendly nations I've ever had the honor and pleasure of meeting. 100%.
Yeah. You've always said that, like, everywhere you go, it's very like community based. Everybody is a local and they're super, super friendly. Like everybody just.
Oh gosh, like, you'll be walking around, someone says, hi, oh, come in for chai, come in. And one thing to notice, if you go and visit a Ugandan family or someone at their home and they offer you something to drink or eat, please don't decline. It's really offensive.
But I feel like that's anywhere in Africa because
except the cup of tea or the cake that they're going to give you, even though it may not taste like the best thing you've had compared to home, for them it's a huge honor that they are able to provide you with something so that you don't leave their home with an empty belly.
Speaking about like communities and African culture, I remember like when I was studying in university, I did Zulu. And the one weekend, we actually went into one of the communities, and the whole purpose was that you spend the day speaking Zulu so you could practice your language skills. So you speak to the local people in this little village. And, it was so interesting because they put together like a whole, I want to say a brass or barbecue for international people, and it was incredible. But in their culture, it's very specific, and the kids are so good because there's tiny little kids, and everyone's a babysitter. The kids are all playing with each other in the roads, and they're tiny children. But the guests are served first, then the men, then the women, then the kids. And the kids sit patiently and wait.
You're right. Men
it's so different. We feed, parents feed their kids first, and then they go serve themselves. It's so different.
Very different. The elderly gets served first, 100%. And something interesting in Uganda, if you went to the hospital or the doctors, even if it's private, you still have to sit and wait. You'll wait patiently. And they will always, regardless who got there first or last, but the elderly patients are always helped first.
That's good, though. That's what you need to be. Other people
you can sit there all day, even if you got there at 8 a.m. If there's elderly people, they will be seen to first, and you can wait until 5 p.m. or whatever. It's like there's a lot of respect for elderly people.
Yeah.
I just want to go back on where you said the food, and like maybe it's not the best thing that you've had, but you said to us you cannot leave Uganda without having a Rolex. Please explain what Rolex is.
There's a lot of things you can't leave Uganda without trying. I miss Uganda immensely. I miss the people. I miss my people there. But no, a Rolex is a pretty cool street food. And no, it's not the watch. It's a slang for rolled eggs. So what this is a chapati that's been deep fried. For so those who don't know what a chapati is, it's like a flatbread. I guess if you want to say a tortilla, if you want to say like a naan, not quite a naan bread. It's flatter than a naan, but it's more like a deep fried tortilla, wrap, if I can put it that way. And then they make a Spanish omelette. And you can choose if you want to have 2-egg omelette, 3-egg omelette, and for every egg you add on, it's more money. But it's quite cool. You can choose how much protein you want. And then they'll chop up a bit of cabbage and green pepper and tomato and onion, a bit of salt, pepper, whack it up, make a little omelette on the side of the road on a skillet over coals. It's gorgeous. And then Spanish omelette goes in the chapati and it gets rolled up. It's beautiful. It's just, that's fast food, that's street food. You can get chicken on a stick, meat on a stick, and it's meat that's cooked over the coals on the side of the road, and it's just beautiful. There's no fancy marinades or spices, just salt. And when you're traveling and you're so hungry, you don't even need to be hungry. It's a long day. Oh, I want a snack. No snack is going to taste better than a meat on a stick on a road.
But it's that open fire, like when you cook on like that kind of fire,
the smokiness of the barbecue. Oh, there's something about it. I think it's an African thing. I don't know.
But
the other thing you need to try in Uganda, sorry, I might be biased here, but G-nut sauce. It's next level. It's next level. All this is raw ground nuts that's been grounded into a paste and then pretty much cooked like a gravy, really. So it is it's a savory dish, although when you taste it, it's got an element of sweetness to it. And this you eat over your potatoes or your rice. And it's an incredible, rich protein, beautiful sauce.
I'm sure everything's really
now I want G-nut sauce. It's the only thing my daughter misses is G-nut sauce. I want a few other things, but yeah.
I'm sure everything is really fresh though, like the produce and everything, like
the fruit. Oh,
I can just imagine.
The bananas. It's not the bananas, the pineapples. They're juicy and sweet. When you eat a pineapple here, like there's a bit of a tang, and tongue like there's none of that there. There's none of that like when your tongue gets sore or whatever. It's not, and it's huge. Like
I would say we get pretty close on the coast I'm on, because the queen pineapples that we get are like what you described.
This is what you were saying to me the other day. So I was like, right, I need to make a trip up to Durban to the coast.
You have to go.
My KwaZulu-Natal has the best fruit, in my opinion. Like when you get a lychee off the side of the road in Durban, it's the best lychee you'll ever have.
Yeah, so the fruits and stuff like in Durban, I would say similar what you're going to get in Uganda. But the flavor in Uganda,
maybe it's the humidity.
A banana here, a banana there. It's got so much flavor. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's the humidity and how it's grown. It must be the climate that's just right for it.
And also very rich, fertile soil. I mean, it's quite a lot of volcanic. There is a bit of volcanoes in the area, so there's a lot of rich, fertile soil of that. And and they have a lot of rain.
I think apart, like just thinking off the top of my head, apart from permits and stuff, people traveling to Uganda obviously need visas. And I know we discussed this quite a bit. And, how easy is it for most foreigners?
It's really easy. Best is to pre-apply for your visa. You get an e-visa. You just go on the Uganda immigration website. Some people do get challenges when they're trying to upload their documents, and that's simply because it needs to be condensed. So make sure when you upload your documents, they are of the certain size that they are required you. Otherwise, it will be rejected until it's the right size. But if you have problems, just give us a shout. We can help.
I think we've done so many now with that we've
done this quite a bit. Hey? Helping guys out, and then of course it does help just having friends on the ground that side advice.
And it's so funny because it's the one thing that people do struggle with is resizing the document properly. And when they send them through to me, I now know as well, like, because we've had this discussion. I resize it in the back and I'm like, load these, and then they go through.
This. Yeah.
It's,
I mean, I remember when the immigration lady resized it for us. I was like,
he helped us. She helped us big time because we just,
without that woman, I don't know. She's incredible. Yeah.
She was amazing, yeah. And with that, Uganda, obviously, now with Kenya changing to electronic ETAs, you can't do that East Africa visa through them, so you have to still do it through Uganda if you want to go to Rwanda.
Based on my knowledge, it seems that you can still get your East Africa visa. It no longer is applicable for Kenya, so it's just now Uganda and Rwanda. So when you get your East Africa visa, you need to apply for it through the country that you'll be entering in first. So in this case, most of the time it's Uganda. So you just pre-apply for your East African visa, and this will give you access into Rwanda as well and back into Uganda. Pardon?
You think it's worth it, giving the opportunity to go into Rwanda for the day trip? Because
if you are required to have a visa for Rwanda in general, then yes, definitely get it, because then when you're in Lake Bunyoni and you decide you want to do the day excursion to Rwanda, you don't now have to stress and worry about, you have it already. You have the visa. Some countries can get their visas on arrival in Rwanda, and some don't need visas. That's the South Africans who need to pre-apply. Although someone in Rwanda was trying to argue with me with that, and I was like, well, I couldn't do it because I didn't have a visa, so maybe things have changed. And that's another thing, is that visa regulations change so much. I mean, for example, Malawi has changed their regulations 3 times in the last 12 months. So it's, to keep on top of it, we do try our best, but ultimately, it is the traveler's responsibility to make sure that you get in your documents.
And saying that, there are in each country, there are embassies, but there are also visa agents. So there is a second backup to check. Like, we can look at something online, but maybe the information hasn't been updated. So if you're getting the information from the source, you're better off.
No, absolutely. But you've also got to be really careful of the source so that you are. So, in my opinion, the best source is your local embassy. That said, I've spoken to a country's embassy in the US, and that same country's embassy in South Africa, they're basically 2 different things. So, yeah, I guess it's also applicable to your nationality, because that, some countries have different rules for different nationalities.
I wish we could all just be visa free and not have to worry about that. But at least
well, I think that's what Kenya is trying to do now with their ETA. So it is cheaper than the East African visa.
And it is easy.
And it is really, really easy. They've simplified it. Zambia is on that bandwagon as well, where they're trying to make things a lot easier for travelers to come, especially after the pandemic. They're just making it really easy for people to travel. Unfortunately, Africa and many other countries in the world have had some unfavorable characters travel through and abuse the systems, and this is why visas are required most of the time.
But I must say,
relations between the country and
and that's the thing. It's exactly what you're saying. It's the relationships. But as far as I can see, having worked in travel as long as I have, visas to Africa actually seem to be the easiest to get out of. As a South African, as South Africans going into Europe or America, there's interviews and stuff for other countries. You have to appear in person. We don't do that for Africa. They're electronic, they're online, they take a few days.
And they're not full of nonsense. They just sorry, we need this document. And then it's just a matter of changing a document, a number, a size, but maybe they want a blue signature, not a black signature. I mean, that's just a hypothetical example. But, then you just quickly change it, resend it. Oh, thanks. I'm going to, one of the hardest countries I've ever had to get a visa for, I'm not going to lie, is Bolivia. Not on Africa. I found getting my American visa when I went to America a lot easier. And that's an interview process in itself.
Bolivia,
it was madness. It was like I was a criminal.
Yeah, I do feel
Why do
like
you want to come
Africa,
here? What is your purpose? Like,
well,
sorry,
Africa,
but
the
I
countries
just love
we
your
sell,
people.
the countries we mainly sell, they're very open to tourism, so they don't want to make the process too hard. But you know,
Of
obviously,
course,
like you said,
because they
the process.
rely on tourism. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's it, Mishka. Like tourism's a huge income, to boost economies. A lot of people rely on it. Funnily enough, I had this conversation with some local people in Uganda one day, and they're like, well, why are we bothered with tourism? We don't get benefits off it. I was like, maybe not direct in your hand. I said, but look in the village that we live in. These campsites and raft companies, whatever, are attracting the tourism here, and they will then go and buy a Rolex from your chapati stand. They will go here, and
hiring people to work
they're supporting your
those
local
places.
economy. That is how they are supporting it. And I didn't think of it like that. They were like, but I'm not getting any handout in my hand. I said, it's all about you, my dude. It's about everyone in your village being looked after as an economy. That everyone can survive one way or the other by the little bit that is coming in. I said, but if you're going to go and do something to counteract that, then nobody's going to come and nobody's going to benefit. So it is a good thing.
It's amazing that you say that, because I actually saw a comment on a post the other day. It wasn't ours, thankfully, but it was a comment where it is obviously an international person, and she said, is it necessary for Africa to have so many different types of travel? You've got luxury lodges, you've got 4-5-star, etc. Like, is it necessary for them to have this type of things? And the main answer that lots of people gave them is yes, because number one, Africa is a must-see destination. Everybody needs to see it. But on top of that is that's the way we make most of our income as a continent. Like, everybody wants to see Africa, and that is the way the communities in those areas make their living, basically. Like, if you go to Kruger, for example, almost every guide that's there or every tracker that's there has probably lived in that area. And was
Yes.
from the time that they were a child into that field that they're in now.
You're 100%. Yeah, you're correct. So a lot of the guides who are employed are from the area, and they grew up, and pick their brains with stories. I used to do that to the guides in the Okavanga Delta. The stories I used to get out of them.
I think the biggest thing with what you just said, Mishka, with the different types of accommodation, like, everyone deserves the opportunity to experience Africa, but not everyone can afford the high-end lodge,
Yes.
So that's why there are different levels. There's camping, there's something for everyone, so that you can get those. You don't get wildlife experiences like Africa anywhere else in the world. And I think we spoke about this when we were away as a team. It's when you come to Africa, you get that like primal coming home feeling. Like, it's very humbling experience. From the people to the wildlife, like, it's incredible.
And you have left South Africa so many times, and I've come straight back.
I can't. I've tried to live overseas and I keep coming back here. It's just I love it so much, and to the point where my entire family live overseas, but I've chosen to stay here because this feels like home. It doesn't feel like home when I try to live overseas. And and don't get me wrong, I love Europe. I'll take a European holiday any day. Like, I love it. But it's very different living here.
Yeah.
We're very, very lucky.
We are extremely, extremely lucky.
Very
Another thing that I just want to bring up that I'm sure not many people know, that Lee helped me discover the other day, is milk bars.
Oh, that is so epic. I didn't know about it either. I'm like, I love that.
Did you watch the video? Because
I watched the video, but I want you to tell us about it, because I feel like you're just very animated and you will explain it so well.
It is so cool though. Like, have you ever?
I know, total accident how I came across it, and I was like, there's nothing like this anywhere else in the world. But Rwanda, instead of like the guys going down to have a beer in the local pub or bar, they go to a milk bar and you can choose between just a regular glass of milk or like a fermented style. So we call that Mars. Yeah, but they probably call it a different thing in Rwanda. So you can choose the type of milk you want. And it's so like exciting and different, and they're everywhere, but they are actually slowly dying out because they're becoming less and less popular. And obviously it's easier to obtain milk at local supermarkets and things, so people probably aren't going to the bars as much. But all I can tell you is I'm so determined to have a little experiment and get different types of milk and do like a tasting.
Oh my gosh, I would do that.
I'm gonna do it.
It's like her husband saying, "Hey, honey, I'm just going out with the boys to the milk bar."
But you know what I love about the milk bar is that they're actually serving the milk in beer jugs. Did anybody notice that?
Yes.
Beer mugs.
It's so cool. And the guy had one of each because he's like, I want to taste both types of milk.
And he's not like, I'm lactose intolerant, but I have to do this.
But funny you say that, because the fermented milk probably wouldn't affect him too much with his lactose intolerance, because it's got the good cultures, you know.
That's it. And there's most likely you can choose from goat milk, cow's milk, sheep milk.
Oh, that's, you just added
That's
another
also the
element.
point. Yeah, I think
I'm
that's
gonna have to
also
go
the point.
milk today.
I think we have to go to Rwanda. To do a city tour, you and me go, oh yes, milk bar hopping.
I'm gonna do my poor boyfriend. I'm gonna do a blind tasting with milk, and I'm gonna be like, taste each of these and tell me what you like.
Please film it.
I will.
It'll be genius. It'll be really interesting, because I just saw the other day, like, I'm still trying to reculture myself coming back to South Africa. They're actually selling unpasteurized milk in the shop.
It must be a fossil, because
So I found this really quite interesting. I was like, okay, you can, you know, like in Uganda was amazing, because the farmer would come around every morning with a milk in the milk cans, you know, like from the 70s, you know. I guess in Europe and in some places they still use it. Sorry. But yeah, he'll come on his little motorbike with his fresh milk and then pour it out for you. And then, you know, it's the fresh, and then the cream that sits on the top of the milk, and it just sits. Fresh milk is amazing. Here in the shops, I just don't know what's all in it. So I guess
That's a good point.
Let's go to Rwanda.
milk tasting is totally going to happen.
Totally. We're making it a thing. Just another question. In terms of obviously overlanding and tours, what would you say, like, would you do your gorilla trek? Would you prefer to do it in the beginning, in the middle? Like, what's the best way to include a gorilla trek in your tour?
So there's a bit of a psychology around this one. And either you can do it at the beginning of your tour, or you can do it at the end of your tour. So we have different styles, different lengths. We have the big trips, 64, 58-day trips. And then we have the shorter ones, 4 days, 7 days, 14 days. And majority of the itinerary. So let's just start with a 2-week trip. You know, Nairobi, starting and ending in Nairobi, that does a little bit of Kenya and does Uganda and the gorillas. If you look at the itineraries, it's quite interesting to note that the gorilla activity is right at the end. And there's a bit of a reason behind that, because gorilla trekking is going to be one of the top 3 highlight exciting things that you're going to be seeing and doing on your trip. It is like the thing. And sometimes what can happen is, if that is the only highlight, that people are really, really just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do it. Once they've done it, everything else just fades in comparison. Now, I don't say that everything else isn't as amazing. It's just that the hype is so about the gorilla trekking that once they've tracked, then they sort of like lose interest in everything else, because what else can beat gorilla trekking? So you know, that sort of stuff. But if you're going to start your trip in Nairobi, then I would recommend you do the Uganda, and then of course the gorillas, and then enjoy the trip south. What's cool about doing your trip south is that as more south you go, so things become more westernized, and you have more supermarkets that are more stocked with different stuff, and you know, you have flushing toilets that will work more than East Africa. You'll have electricity, you might have faster Wi-Fi, whatever the case may be is, and then ending it in incredible Cape Town with a bash. But if you're doing it, a lot of people would then do it north, but then the gorilla trek should be the absolute last thing you do, because I mean, once you've done that, it's like the grand finale of your tour. But yeah, I guess it's also the mindset, you know, with the gorilla trekking and all the other things that you want to enjoy. But the other thing to, you know, that probably would contradict what I'm saying now is that you also probably want to just do the gorilla trekking first before you go, you know, spraining your ankles or getting sick or something along the way that would then prevent you from doing the trek. So if you started your tour earlier, you went Fisher Canyon, I don't know, you climbed Kilimanjaro, you slipped, you sprained your ankle a week before you're supposed to go gorilla trekking because you did Kili first. In that case, I would do gorillas first and then do Kilimanjaro.
If you do, you can get somebody to carry you, maybe.
Well, yeah, if you have like $1,000 lying around for someone to go for it.
But you know, Minette, it's like, it's so difficult to say, because I think some people who haven't experienced some of the other things, it really wouldn't matter what order they're doing it in. Like, I had a client,
it's the mindset, I guess, you know, and it also depends like what you want to get out of your tour. What is it? Like, everyone has got their own little agenda going on, and everyone's got their own little reasons for coming out, you know.
Exactly.
I've had quite a few women and men having a midlife crisis that just ended their marriage, sold up freaking everything, and decided to travel for 3 months. Look, I've had quite a few of those. I'm not going to lie. It's like, that's it. Everything's become too much. I'm becoming a nomad.
Sometimes you need the break. You just
100%. I think Overland is the best place to come for that little situation. I'm not going to lie. Because you're surrounded with incredible people that just have the zest for life, who are open-minded, have the flexible nature, and that just go with the flow. I mean, you've just come out of a situation where it was this way, that way, the next way, and you just need a little bit of breathing space. Come to Africa. It will heal. One thing is, you may never leave when you come to Africa. That has happened before as well, where people are like, oh, I just need a break, and then they just never leave.
It's okay. We're very welcoming people.
It's like a little bug. It gets under your skin, and then
come.
Stays with you forever. It's a love. It's a love, heavy love relationship. If you come to Africa, just know it's a start of a very long, expensive addiction, because you're going to be coming back and coming back.
The number of passengers I deal with that when they get home say, are we planning our next trip to here or to there, or next time we want to go to
Isn't it beautiful?
You know, all the time.
It's the best for me. That's the best, because I'm like, yes, they're the best time. Like when they come back, like
it's a good feeling.
Biggest compliment. It's such a good feeling. Like I'm like a kid in the candy store.
Last question. It could be answered by both of you. What's the most interesting, compelling, inspiring story that you've had from a past traveler who's done a gorilla trek or any sort of trek?
That's a good one. I was actually going to say earlier, I had a client that did a gorilla trek, and elderly clients. Elderly, I would say they're probably not at the fitness level. I think they walk enough, so that was fine for them. And their highlight, or her highlight from their trip, was seeing lions in the Serengeti, but just because the vehicle got so close to the lions. And I think she just really loved lions, you know. So like that was such a highlight for her. So that's what I was saying when you're saying like it depends on the person and how open they are, because some people are obsessed with elephants. And I mean, you come to Africa, you're going to see a lot of them. Like if you go through Botswana, and you're going to see a lot of elephants. But is one elephant too many? No, absolutely not. They're amazing.
Exactly. And you know, Lee, it's sort of like, so many game drives, I'm done with game drives. I said, but every day is different. You're going to see something different. Although it's an elephant, like you might be doing something different in a different area, like, you know, but I've had so many, I can't point to one. But the only thing that I can honestly think of now is one of my favorite travelers. I actually miss chatting with them, you know, like when we're emailing our travelers, like we get to know our clients. And yeah, I sometimes get emotionally involved because I just want the best. And then what's really epic is when they're sending me photos while they're on tour.
Yes.
Minette, look what I saw this morning. I was like, oh. And then I literally get so jealous. We shared with the whole team, and then we get sidetracked from work because we're all discussing what our clients saw in the Delta that morning. I'm just like the one lion sighting. I was like, jealous much. Jealous much. You know, and anyway, he sent me a message going, and here we are, gorillas, and everyone's emotional and crying, and of course I'm a man, I'm not allowed to cry, so I'm just sitting there smiling, you know, whatever. Next thing, the silverback just lets rip the loudest fart through the forest.
Can they laugh? Because don't you have to be like really
Well,
quiet?
they're all trying to kill. But I think the guide was like, we can't hold it in, we have to laugh. Like, what the fudget? Anyway,
it was the gorilla.
But you could just imagine everyone's just so quiet and everyone's trying to be so serious. The next thing you just hear really loud through the forest, like it's like breaking the ice. What else are you supposed to do? But no, like I've had various encounters and stories, but that was quite funny. That was quite a good one.
I think that this has been a really awesome chat, ladies. Do you guys have anything else that you guys want to add in?
Always, but here for days if I did. So yeah, I'm going to just thank you.
Yeah. I think off the back of what you said, Minette, like one of the things, we're not just here to book the holidays, like we are genuinely interested and we actually do really want to see the pictures. So, you know,
it's not something we just say, right?
Send them to us because we get really excited about that.
Because we get FOMO. Like I just had a group of friends, they were 5. And they did like Uganda, and then they did a 2-week Tanzania and Kenya trip. And these guys were just the best. And I miss them immensely because they included me in their safari while they were on safari. And every day I would get updates. And it honestly felt like I was
with them.
You were there.
And I was like, I couldn't wait for the next day's updates. Like, what happened last night? What did you hear? You know, I was just like, because we know what, you know, our travelers are going to experience. And I have FOMO. I want to know, I wish I was a fly in the wall to see the look on
with them.
when they see an elephant for the first time. Honestly, I can't explain to you the frustration that I'm not there to see the look on their face, the pleasure, the joy of seeing the sunrise over the dunes or seeing a lion for the first time. Like those emotions. Oh man, I get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
It is the best. It's the best feeling.
Yeah. It's not just something that we say, we genuinely do want to know. Yeah. And I mean, if we could, we would probably put ourselves in your suitcase too. Like, you know.
Yeah, I go with every
imagine. Then we're like, what are you doing here?
Cool. Last thing that I just want to touch on is that we do have Black Friday deals that are still valid, bookable until I think the 2nd of December. So you've just got today and Monday, basically. But there will probably be more. We do have others that are going. So if you guys have any questions, any plans to travel, I'm sure all of you do. Please let us know if you're looking for something, and we are here to help you every step of the way.
Definitely. Super excited.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, so much. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.
Thanks, Mishka. Thanks, everyone.